Mishka. Welcome back to my channel. So, in today's episode of Our Life Beginnings and Always, we are going to be continuing Derek's DLC in, the epilogue in step 4 or whatever. I'm not sure if we will end this today. We probably will. I probably will try and finish this because when I pulled up my game yesterday, I found out that they had released Baxter's DLC like the day before, and I'm like, what is the coincidence with that? Like, okay, so I just got that before I started like recording this, so we are going to be doing Baxter's DLC, and that is when we will actually be finishing like the whole game with like every single person. So yeah, but before we get started, make sure to subscribe and share this video with your friends so they can find out about my amazing channel just so you have right now. So yeah, let's get into it. I hope you enjoy. Oh my god. And when y'all, like when I pulled up my comment section this morning, I saw that a lot of you guys were happy that I was back, and it made my day, and I'm just so glad to be back. Alright, so this is when we came home from the pool after the whole fight with Derek and his brothers or whatever. I was about to say twins, but honestly, they all look like twins. Hey, welcome home. Did you enjoy the pool? She moved out of the way to let you all inside. Derek hesitant before bringing up the rear. It was hard to ignore that he was shyly scratching his cheek and keeping his head down now that you were inside. Mm-hmm. It was great, I say, right, guys? Uh-huh, it was. Yeah.
That's what I like to hear.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Mr. Suarez gleefully made his way over when he realized your group was back. His eyebrow arching, you could feel the mischief coming. Good. At least someone didn't jump in while fully dressed, right? They were well behaved this time. Yeah. I'm grown up now. Both Nicholas and George raised an eyebrow at that remark. You crossed your arms confidently. Right, very mature. Really, Derek. The next few hours passed by at a more leisurely pace. Together, progress was made on a 1,000-piece puzzle. At one point, Derek plucked one of the pieces from the I have no idea where this goes pile and tossed it at Nicholas to catch his attention. Without taking his eyes off the puzzle, Derek wondered out loud if he could take the switch over to his place for the night. He had played it as if it was no big deal in the hopes that Nico would feel less pressure. Nico let out a deep sigh but got up anyway. Just as Derek had always struggled to say no to him, Nicholas equally couldn't deny his big brother's request. He returned a few minutes later, holding the console with a tangled power cord and a couple controllers piled on top. I'm guessing you wanted 2 controllers. That was exactly right. He knew Derek wasn't getting it for himself alone, but in order to experience it with you. Looks like Derek never needs to buy an extra controller for himself. Wow, thanks. Nicholas's gaze narrowed as he pulled everything closer to his chest. But before I hand this over, could we play a few rounds with the family? His eyes went wide and pleading. Instead of answering, Derek turned to you. His head tilted as he silently asked for your opinion. You nodded. We'd be staying here a while longer then? That's fine with me. Cool. He shifted back to his little brother, game face on. I hope you're ready to lose, Nico. That's cute. Don't prepare your victory speeches yet, bro. George, you're in too. Come on. It is not a choice. The tiny piece of cardboard in George's hand dropped onto the kitchen counter at the unexpected enlistment. He blinked but then smiled. Fine. Yeah! The Suarez family gathered around the TV and the brothers got the console set up. With a new battle sparked between the Suarez boys, you and Liz decided to give your moms a quick call. They were tickled to find out what happened with Liz's surprise trip. Between the 4 of you, it was decided that Liz would go down to Sunset Berg to see them in person and that you would stay in the city. Your trip with the Suarez family and there was the visit later in the summer that would center around your moms completely. After the call ended and you placed your phone back in your pocket, you had a new thought. Huh.
What?
What's that about? Oh.
What?
When are you leaving? I know you're here now, but you never told me for how long. Oh, I'm out of here tomorrow, technically. This is a very short trip. I say technically because my flight's at 11:59 p.m. Can you believe it? Sheesh, talk about major inconvenience, but beggars can't be choosers. Derek? The brothers were absorbed in game land when Liz nearly shouted that last part over her shoulder. It was loud and poignant enough that there was no way they could miss her teasing. Derek watched two Taylor siblings over his shoulder. His cocky grin fell to a frown. Yeah, that's true. You're leaving tomorrow night. Both of you are. Derek tried to muster up another smile, but it was weak in comparison. He seemed smaller all of a sudden, squished in the center of a couch with a brother on each side, then shrugged.
This sucks.
Things were starting to feel normal having you here, just in time for you to not be here anymore. Aww. Nicholas's chin lifted at his brother's crestfallen tone. His gaze bounced back and forth between you and Derek, but you found his expression to be difficult to read. George, meanwhile, gave his big brother an understanding pat on the back. When he caught your attention, he nodded encouragingly. Without a doubt, you knew that you could rely on his family to be there to support him alongside you and to bring him cheer during the days you were gone. You were thankful for them.
Sorry.
Well, I hit a nerve, sorry. Now let's forget about that. It's not tomorrow yet. You were worried about Derek ignoring his own feelings. You knew from the start tomorrow was going to be a tough day, but it was worse now that you got a glimpse of how it might impact Derek. You weren't sure to explain to him that it was okay to be sad and that it was okay to miss what made this trip special. The game had been paused ever since Derek stopped watching the screen, but the scene had as strong of an impact on Nicholas as it had on his favorite person. His brows furrowed intensely. That settles it. Nico breathed in deep through his nose, gathering his nerves, and pushed himself off of his seat. He walked away with purpose, away from his family and towards your sister. Hi, could you give us some privacy? Us youngest siblings need to talk. Oh, shit, okay. Liz's lips twitched, possibly with a bite of disagreement or a question or even a snarky quip, but surprisingly she kept it in. Okay, go easy on her. You might be their cherished little one, but May is mine. Yeah, sure, I hear you. He nonchalantly waved her off, and Liz gave you one last brief glance before yielding. Once she was gone, it was just you and Nicholas in that corner of the room. Actually, could we talk outside? Alright. God, here we go. His behavior so far had you stunned, but you followed him outside anyway. No one tried to follow, though you could feel every eye on your backs as you and Nicholas left. Standing in the street, Nico silently examined you with half-open eyes. Your mouth twisted awkwardly as you looked around. There was always a chance that Nicholas could surprise you, but you had a good guess about what the conversation would be about. Should I be worried you brought me here without any witnesses? Nicholas's cheeks puffed into something like a pout, but he exhaled loudly instead.
Fair.
George was right. He and Derek are somehow always right. They got all the being correct genes and none were left for me. But forget that. I'm not going to throw a tantrum. There was a comment you could have made, but the words on your tongue vanished. The meekly earnest way Nicholas carried himself got you to hesitate. There's something I want you to know, so just listen. Do you remember the night you took Derek to some party thing at that club your family goes to? He said to simply listen and then straight into wanting answer. Nico was trying though. You smiled nostalgically at the very mention of it. That night was one of your fondest summer memories, though you didn't have a clue what Nicholas had to tell you about that party now. This might be wild to you, but believe it or not, that night left an impression on me too. I was so upset that Derek bailed on the movie we had to go without him, and then Mom and Dad wouldn't even let me stay up to see him get back. They tried every trick in their book to get me to go to sleep, but nothing worked. I just wanted him home. And they never did get me to go to sleep. I blinked myself out of accident. I burned up whatever energy I still had that late by getting so upset. Nicholas chuckled at the memory, rubbing the back of his neck. His eyes remained wistfully glazed for another moment. I couldn't understand why he wanted to go away all by himself. That didn't make any sense. Him, and George, but at that age, we know I really meant me and Derek should stay together. That's when life was the best, right? Silently nodding along, that detail didn't surprise you, but it also didn't stop the guilty feeling growing in your gut. You knew his 6-year-old self well, and the last thing you ever wanted was to hurt him. At some point, I did wake up, and I rushed up to see Derek, my big brother, my best friend. He hung out with me, exactly like I knew he would. I think Mom and Dad must have gone back to their own room because I remember Derek being the one to put me in bed. He promised to tell me all about what happened. It was great. A slight smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. Nicholas gradually met your gaze, and then he crossed his arms. When he tucked me in, I was so happy that Derek was there and talking about the cool things he did. At the time, they were the biggest and most important adventures. I fell asleep perfectly content. But when I woke up the next day, I was sad all over again. It took a minute for my baby brain to realize that almost none of the story was about the fancy party or how he was the only one of us who got to go. It was about doing something with you. Aww! Your heartbeat was louder in your ears, and you unconsciously wiped your sweaty palms on the sides of your thighs. I couldn't even explain that to anybody, including Derek. I didn't have the words. All anyone knew was that poor little Nico was feeling down. Don't worry, I get it better now. Perspective and maturity and whatever. He glanced at the condo and your chest ached. You had a good feeling that he was searching for Derek. He really liked you. That's what I realized, and that's what made me sad. Derek's face when he looks at you now is the same as it was 10 years ago, when I was wrapped up in my blankie and he was dressed in his fancy clothes just talking about you. But it doesn't make me sad anymore. Oh, that's good! Nicholas's lingering melancholy melted into a warm laugh.
Basically, he really likes you.
And basically, Derek really likes you. That's the point. A smile brightened your features. It was wonderful for Nico to share what he could see with his own two eyes, and even more amazing to know with certainty that it was the truth. The moment of levity didn't last. His brow pinched and he stared you down in a long pause. Nico wanted to address your relationship with his brother. It was the only thing that got him so serious. Your nerves had goosebumps breaking out all over your skin. Just when you thought you'd crack from the suspense, Nicholas smirked and tossed his arms out to the wind. Well, May, at the end of the day, I'm gonna support Derek all the way. I bet you knew that, but to make sure, don't go dumping him for my sake. His honest and mature answer was such a relief and nearly knocked you off your feet. Nicholas shrugged and continued his thought. Seriously, it's a good thing, and you adults have your own problems to deal with. You don't need me adding to it. So, congratulations. Thanks for hearing me out. Oh, Nico. You hugged him. Sniffling, you wiped your face on your shoulder and then dove forward. You could hear the air being crushed with his lungs moments before he started laughing. Seriously, thank you. He hugged you back with one arm and carefully patted your shoulder blades with the others. You sighed contentedly. Thank you for putting that dumb smile on Derek's face. Nicholas ruffled a hand through his hair in a manner much the same as Derek did. There was no surprise there. It also wasn't much of a shock that you and your family of sorts managed to clear the air between you. There was more than a mutual affection for Derek. You cared for each other too. You returned to the condo together with matching conspiratorial smiles. By the way the room hushed as you walked through the door, you knew that not a single soul was minding their own business. And despite everyone's best attempts at pretending to be busy, it was obvious that Liz and the Swears family were all equally curious about what happened outside. Everything okay over there? Should I be concerned? We're fine. Nicholas had cupped a hand next to his mouth to yell at your sister. As his brain caught up to his action, he leaned towards you with a raised eyebrow. We're all good, right? We couldn't be better. He rejoined his brothers and you went back to Liz. After that talk, you felt a million times better about where you stood. Welcome back. I see you're still in one piece. Yeah, I'm even more whole. All cute. Nicholas lifted his chin and flashed his siblings a determined grin. He cracked his knuckles. Okay. That's enough with the seriousness. Let's race.
Let's race.
Yes, let's race. Alright. Liz's brows raised as she watched the bizarre exchange. You slapped fingers over your mouth to muffle your laughter at first, but couldn't leave your sister hanging, so you gently got her attention by pushing her arm. They're still talking about video games, a car game. Oh, that makes sense. She combed some stray strands of hair behind her ear and watched the chaos commence. Well, there's no reason we should sit out. Our jobs are done. The family, you and Liz included, ended up crammed shoulder to shoulder on the couches. Liz announced her intention of beating the brothers in a game she never played. Her enthusiasm for the gold win was as powerful as ever. You hoped the condo would survive the competition. You wanted to play too. There was nothing like a good racing game to get the blood pumping. Your fingers were already fidgeting in anticipation. You need a controller as soon as possible. Count me in for this. Since there were only so many controllers, it was decided that everyone would take turns, starting from the youngest to the oldest. Nicholas faked humility as he accepted his position as first. The races began and the room bounced with wild cheers and shouts. Even Mrs. Suarez jumped in line for a race. She was a welcome addition to the event. Mr. Suarez, on the other hand, had a history of gaming offenses. He was watched like a hawk by the other participants to make sure he didn't pull any funny business. But it was to no avail. Just before the top three were decided, the race was intensely neck to neck. Mr. Suarez managed to bunch George from behind with his foot and destabilize his son's driving. Not one person actually saw him do it in the heat of the moment, but there was no debate on who the kicker was, no matter how much Mr. Suarez pleaded his innocence. The fact that his insistence was started with laughter didn't help his case. The rest of the rounds went off with less cheating, though weren't any less memorable. Eventually, enough of the day passed that Liz rose to her feet. It's getting late. My ride back to Sunset Bridge should be coming soon. I'm gonna give my legs a chance to stretch and wait outside. She flashed you a weak smile and then double-checked that she had all of her things together.
Thanks.
Oh.
Thanks.
Thanks for having me. Bye, everyone. Before she could make her exit, Derek sprung up as well.
Okay.
Wait, May and I should get going too. You don't have to leave by yourself. What a gentleman. At that, Nicholas and George finally stopped what they were doing and turned to their big brother. Both of them wore identical rounds. Derek leans away from Liz towards the growing audience. Sorry, we'll see you again tomorrow. He sheepishly scratched the back of his neck while his brothers continued to stare pitiably. Hey, I've got an idea. Why don't you come over to my place for a change? Mom and Dad are welcome, obviously. You too, Liz. Let's do it tomorrow. That idea was met by surprise, but the room shifted positively. Getting to Derek's place was more unanimously agreed on than even Mr. Suarez being a big cheater. A new plan made, the group said goodbye for now. You and Derek accompanied Liz out. Though halfway, Derek paused and remembered to barrel back inside. He almost forgot to take the console home with him again. Perfect timing or not, Derek wasn't letting it slip through his fingers. He returned in record time, as if he joined an actual race. Together, you hung outside with Liz until she was safely on her way home. It was still mind-blowing that you didn't have to center your life around a bus or a shuttle schedule anymore. By the time Liz's ride was out of sight, the sun was hanging low in the sky. It would be dark soon. You hopped into Derek's car and plopped into the front seat. You were ready to settle down for the day. Derek carefully stored the console cords and 2 controllers in the back seat before taking his spot behind the wheel. As soon as Derek pulled the door shut, he slapped his fingers on the steering wheel. Woo! I've been waiting forever to try that new game.
You know.
Well, it's not that new. It's already a few years old, but you know what I mean. You are adorable. There was no stopping your tiny smile. It's so cute when you get excited, you light up. Huh. He hung onto the steering wheel for dear life.
I see how it is.
Alright, I'll take your word for it, but where I'm sitting, there's definitely someone cuter. Derek eagerly turned the key and the engine roared to life. Within seconds, you were cruising down the road again. Thanks for helping Liz come see me. Hey, don't worry about that. No, seriously, I mean every bit of this, thank you. You went the extra mile, even by your normal standards of doing things for people. That's a huge deal. He peeked at you and his flesh skin reddened even more. Derek glued his eyes on the road once more. You're welcome, May. Believe me, it was all worth the trouble. The rest of the ride passed by in a comfortable silence, and soon enough you were standing in his apartment. Derek pushed it open and motioned for you to go in first. Carrying the console and its various wires under his arm, Derek trailed behind you. He casually gestured towards the living room.
I got you.
Take it easy and relax. I'll get this bad boy set up. Or you could relax and I'll set it up. What? You can't turn this around on me. Why not? You did all the driving. Now you can take it easy. Derek scratched the side of his head. You didn't budge from your position. Your logic does check out, but I got this. Derek reluctantly released the cords and let you take over managing the task. Thanks, May. He sat on the edge of the couch, kicked his shoes off, and then stretched his legs out. Once the console was all ready, Derek declared something was missing. Luckily, it wasn't one of the cords that was covered. I'm gonna put my pajamas on. We can't have a late night game session in like regular clothes. Oh yeah, I'll change too. Awesome, let's regroup in 5. With the deadline set, you both scrambled down the hall and into your own rooms. A few minutes later, you returned about the same spot where you'd come in, but clad in much cozier outfits.
Nice work.
That's gonna be a record, now we're set. Derek retrieved the game you got at the mall. The case had been waiting patiently on the coffee table for quite a while.
So,
There's VS and team modes with the sports games. What are you in the mood for? I want to play against you. Derek arched an eyebrow before straightening his back to stand up at his full height. He rolled his shoulders and cracked a determined grin.
let's get to it.
Alright, May, if it's a fight you want, it's a fight you'll get. Fine by me, bring it. You plucked the game case from his grip and skimmed the summary explanation as a refresher. It'd be good to come prepared. Derek crossed his arms, already confident. Just remember you asked for it. You threw up a high five that Derek enthusiastically met with a loud slap. He picked up a controller and shot you a wink. Derek put the game in and hovered by the console until he was satisfied that things were booting up correctly. He then relocated to the couch across from the TV and plopped down in the center. You dive bombed next to him. The motion tilted him slightly on the cushion. Your dramatic arrival sent him into a fit of laughter. Derek's cheeks were flushed as he wiped a tear from the corner of his eye. Hi, May. Hey. You were close enough that your leg brushed against his while you got comfortable. Even after putting a few inches between you both, your shoulders occasionally bumped. Derek's welcoming smile brought a warmth to you. Or maybe it was your hyper awareness of his body heat radiating through your side. Either way, it was getting hotter. And on that note, you and Derek were at war against each other. Time went by at a rapid clip while you were inside the world of the game. You were on fire in a good metaphorical way. Not that anyone was keeping count after the first hour. You leaned forward, watching the TV screen intently, and pressed the button combination you were rapidly committing to memory. Your cheeks were sore from grinning so much. You won this round, but so far you and Derek were trading off victories like the world's most intense game of hot potato. That was awesome. Your throat was sore from the highs of making each other laugh and from the lows of shouting and frustration at the TV. The game was still in full swing when Derek suddenly spoke up, not for further commentary on your digital moods, but for real-life considerations. Did you want any snacks? Out of habit, you glanced in his direction. He had his sight locked on the TV screen even still. I can't keep putting my stomach off. Can we pause for a minute? Yeah, thank you. As soon as you lifted your finger off the pause button, Derek was already out of his seat and dashing towards the kitchen.
Snow?
I can bring something for you too. You unpaused the game. That's terrible! Fine. Nay. Nothing. Grinning wickedly, you held an index finger several inches over the main button on your control and hesitated. There was no sign of Derek coming back yet. From the repeated clatter of cupboard doors, you knew he was checking every cabinet for the best treats. 1, 2, you let your finger drop onto the buttons and the game chaotically resumed. Oh god. Derek returned and his arms were filled with all kinds of goodies you picked up on your grocery trip and a couple you hadn't seen before. They must have been tucked away for a special occasion before you'd arrived. He carefully placed 2 water bottles down and then dumped the rest onto the coffee table.
All right.
Behold. Derek flopped back down onto the couch. Alright, so I was thinking, huh? Derek stared at the screen, his brow furrowed. Eventually, he moved his gaze to you. Nervously, your grin widened, and you offered him a tiny wave that seemed to jumpstart his brain again. You're worse than my dad! His outburst had you laughing hysterically, holding onto your sides, and you nearly fell over. I can't believe it. Unpausing the game is the ultimate betrayal. You underestimated me. Alright, I want to go back and see what he wanted to say. So,
It's no problem.
I'll just say that.
All right. You've got it.
Okay, never mind. Whatever. Alright. Derek let out an exaggerated gasp moments before a grin filled his face. His cheeks were rosy as he calmed down and shook his head. I did, but never again. Ready to jump back in?
You've got it.
You know it. Derek declared that he should get a couple minutes to play without you to make everything even. Accepting the compromise, you sat there not pressing anything. Though it wasn't long before he allowed you to join in the game once more. Or again. He kept one eye on you to make sure you weren't up to any more tricks. As the game accelerated into its most important moments, neither you nor Derek could be contained by your own seats. You kept pushing and pressing into each other on the couch. The night slipped by joyously. At one point, you took turns watching the other work through some single-player content. Despite Derek's usual position as the responsible one, you unknowingly stayed up gaming late into the night. Gradually, your eyelids drooped. Your laughter was replaced by yawns, and your voices grew softer until they were whispers floating slowly into cotton-filled ears. The last thing you heard was the melody of the game's music still playing, but sounding so far away. You returned to awareness slowly. Your eyes were still heavy and you rubbed at them. Crushed into a cushion, you were exactly where you started your virtual exploits last night, on an off-white couch with Derek. You and him were very nearly nose to nose, limbs tucked around one another in a cuddly embrace.
Morning.
Morning, May. He sounded awfully cheery. There was far more life in it than anyone who had just been unconscious moments before would have. He'd already been awake, you'd bet. You wouldn't have left either. This is where you wanted to be. You loved the feeling of Derek's arms around you and had to thank your past self for having fallen asleep accidentally. Derek kept you wrapped around him. Your feelings were mutual in the best way. Derek let out a low chuckle, his chest rumbling. Sorry about the less than ideal location. I didn't want to risk waking you up by moving you to a bed. It's ideal to me. I'd rather sleep on the couch with you than alone in bed. May, me too. Aww. Derek smoothly pulled his arms around you tighter, embracing you deliberately. It was totally a move. In the back of your brain, you were amazed this was actually happening. Sometimes it felt as if you and Derek were destined to be apart. The way he held you with no plans of stopping eased those worries for good. Derek was incredibly warm in personality and as a pillow, and in that position you caught a similarly warming fragrance that clung to his skin. He was not one for intentionally perfuming himself, but the gentle, nutty scent about him had you guessing that Derek used shea butter lotion. You know, having a sleepover in the living room as grown-ups definitely has one perk over doing it as kids. Said perk was interrupted by the sound of a ringing phone. Derek's eyes widened in an instant and he shifted to reach his phone on the coffee table. He checked the caller ID and a disbelieving smirk crossed his face. His voice was a whisper.
Are you serious?
No way. You couldn't guess whose mere call would get that reaction. What? He slid his finger across the screen and tapped the speaker button. Casually, he leaned back into the couch and stretched out an arm. From the fond twist of his lips, you knew this at least had to be someone close to him. Hey, Nico.
Hey.
Morning, bro. I'm also here. May, you're actually the one I wanted to talk to. I just called Derek so I wouldn't bother if you were still sleeping. Oh, I don't need my sleep? Dude, you're the most morning person to have ever early rose. Nicholas Suarez did not know Cove Holden. That was one competition Cove took the gold in every time. You get up so early a night owl could give you a high five on their way to bed. You'll hit the gym before. The sudden stand-up routine broadcast into Derek's living room was cut off prematurely. Nico definitely could have kept going. Okay, we heard you the first time. Hey, you asked for it. Derek pointed a judgmental finger towards the phone. The only thing he said was quietly to you. This kid. He lifted his voice up to not let the conversation drag. So what's up? What do you think? May is leaving soon, isn't she? So when will you come over to see me? Now, soon? Derek theoretically rolled his eyes, inwardly laughing at Nicholas's eagerness. We've got to talk about it. I need me and May, not me and you. May is here already. Sorry, Nico, you're gonna have to share. We'll sort it out and then I'll let you know. Alright, see you later. Yeah, I promise. We will definitely see you. Bye, May. Derek pressed the red button on his phone's screen and ended the call. Nico's gesture really was sweet. It might have been years since you last babysat him, but you still had a special attachment for him that you didn't for any other teen. Derek let out another long sigh, still holding the phone in the air. He looked up at the device as if it was a magic wand. I should have figured. Derek, what were you gonna say before he called? Derek shook his head with a weird expression. I was about to say that with my own place, we didn't have to worry about little brothers interrupting our peaceful morning together. Technology has proven me wrong. You snorted. Nicholas didn't ever need to call a psychic. The timing was prophetic. Speak of the devil, right? He missed the call as soon as he dragged himself out of bed. Typical Nico. He shrugged a single shoulder and then reached down to place his phone on the table again.
No problem.
We can still take it easy, though. You should take it as easy as possible before a stressful trip. He nuzzled his cheek into yours so you could feel his breath tickle your skin. I'm gonna take a shower and everything, and then we should have breakfast. Oh, should I join you? His brows lifted and his face darkened, clearly intrigued. I'm not sure that means what I'm thinking it means. No, I think we're on the same page! Sorry, there's not enough room. His tone was disappointed, if not frustrated, that his tiny city apartment bathroom wasn't meant for two. Okay, I'll use the other one. You could at least take with you the memory of Derek's charming face. Okay, I want to see the other one, though. I want to see this one.
Really?
Really? His brows lifted in intrigue. You made a tempting proposition. Well, like I said, there's no reason to rush. You appreciate how agreeable Derek could be. You happily made yourself comfortable once more, snuggled on the couch. While you were far too awake now to drift off, it did give you the chance to chat more. You continued last night's discussion. It was lovely. Okay, no. I like the other one. I like this one.
Sorry.
Derek lifted you up with him as he shifted into a sitting position. He could get out from under another person with ease. The gym had done him well. He smooched your cheeks, still keeping you elevated, before gently putting you back on the cushion with one more tight squeeze. The whole experience made you giddy.
Talk to you later.
See you soon. With that, he headed off to the back of the apartment. You skipped to your room to begin your normal morning routine after a particularly not normal start to the day. Derek's insistence on planning in pajamas had certainly worked out in ways you hadn't foreseen. Maybe he'd had an inkling of it. With two game-loving brothers, it was possible he had practiced dozing off on the controller before. While changing your wrinkled clothes, your phone buzzed with a text from your sister. Liz was giving you the heads up that she was gonna pop in to see some rides, some friends in the afternoon when she had the chance, but she'd be there to see you off before the end of the day. You typed a quick message letting her know that was cool and sent it. When you finished your morning ritual, you returned out to the main area of the apartment. Finished with his own daily prep, Derek had made his way back onto the couch. He couldn't stay away for long. Welcome back. Thank you. Hunger became a third wheel to your party by that point. You got work to send it on its way. You and Derek threw something together and had a relaxed meal. It was all good. The two of you could pretend that this wasn't the last time you'd be waking up together for who knew how long. I heard from Liz she's busy this afternoon, but says she's going to see us later on. He nodded along, not looking shocked. Liz grew up in the area too. She had plenty of roots to water in that land. Speaking of people to see, my family's coming over here today, and so is Liz, but we've got to ask your mom still. They're going to want to say bye, I bet. Can Mr. Holden come too? For sure. Thanks for letting them visit. I'll text them. Of course, it's going to be so cool to open my own place to the grown-ups after being their guest a million times. And I love having you here with me. It's like we're living together, for real, permanently, as if you weren't just a guest.
It's a bummer.
What? Too bad it's gotta end. All morning he'd appeared giddy, excited by your presence. That light still shone through, but averting your eyes from reality wasn't a foolproof strategy. He'd accidentally broken the illusion. He pressed his lips together tight and his brows pulled in tensely. Today's gotta be big. It's the last chance. We should do something you couldn't do anywhere else. You braced yourself for the coming conclusion and then smiled. I like the way you think. We should come up with something. Let's end the trip on a high note. Wait. He pumped his fist in triumph at his sudden inspiration. You know what we could do? Derek left you no space to guess and blurted out exactly what he was thinking. Go to the boardwalk! That's what I was thinking! The volume of his explanation got louder as his excitement grew. Sure, it's even further away than the water park, and we probably have to leave after only an hour, but we could make it, and then we'd at least have been there. No one can stop us, and we don't need anyone's permission. Do you want to go? His pure eyes shone with hopes and dreams. Hell yeah! When Derek had good ideas, he really struggled. Yes, let's do it. He was halfway to jumping to his seat before he realized where he was. As soon as we finish our food, obviously. That did not seem obvious to Derek until a second ago. We could eat on the road. Oh, alright. You let your anticipation carry you through snarfing bits of food while bundling up anything portable. The dishes hit the sink and Derek waved off washing them now for a change. He raided one of the cabinets for granola and he pointed out some other snacks to take. All in all, you were ready and out the door in 7 minutes. During the drive, Derek's brain was in sharp focus. Oh god. We should make sure everyone knows that the get-together will be for dinner, a late-ish dinner. I'll leave it to you if you want to tell the gang about our own plans for the day or keep it a secret. I don't know if you want to deal with everyone asking why they weren't invited, but they are a lot more grown up than they used to be. Sometimes I forget that. Are you kidding? I'm bragging about this. That choked a laugh out at him. That's an angle I hadn't considered. You know, you're a very honest person. After a very long ride and some struggles with parking, Derek had to resort to circling like a vulture until a spot opened up. You and Derek were strolling under a wide blue sky into the bustling boardwalk. The Boardwalk amusement park was as dizzying and as dazzling as it was 10 years ago. Music was playing from storefronts, screams blurred out the peaks of the coaster, and crowds of people were laughing and talking from all sides. You knew as soon as the scent of the sea and fried foods struck your senses that this was the right call for your last stop on your trip with Derek. At your side, Derek spoke, soft and sentimental. We made it. It's been a long time coming. He didn't say more. They felt his knuckles brush against your arms inquiringly. You took Derek's hand. It slipped into his naturally. Now you wouldn't get lost and would be much happier. Together you stepped further down the path. For a place that felt so alive, it was almost uncanny how little had changed over the years. The bike rental store was there, though they also offered shiny new electric scooters. There were still vibrant stalls offering a variety of fair foods, and the two big rides, the roller coaster and the Ferris wheel, continued to tower above the bustling crowds. You were sure of one difference without needing to see it. The face painting counter would have a total stranger running it. Xavier had moved on to decorating cakes rather than children's cheeks. Still, being there was a time machine to a summer long gone. You and Derek were two teens once again. He got your attention with enough boyish excitement to confirm it. What do you want to do while we can? We'll have to leave pretty early to make it back for the farewell dinner. But we can ride the rides, grab a treat, browse some stores, or hell, we could even rent our own bikes if you want. You were pulled into an even closer position to Derek as he squeezed your hand affectionately. His pure enthusiasm made frowns outright impossible. You chuckled, the joy vibrating through you coming out. Your first time at the boardwalk was an experience. It was such a huge trip. Both of your parents and siblings had been there, but separated into two groups. For better and for worse, you went all across the very boards curling under your feet. Meanwhile, the adults hadn't had their heels on the floor. They were into pedals. The shock you felt learning they'd gone off on bikes without a care in the world was as fresh as ever in your mind, and that wasn't all that lingered within you. Important decisions about face painting, Nico being carried around like a sack of potatoes, snacks on the bench as the sun set, and the Ferris wheel. Viewing it not only in hindsight, but as an adult, made the moments even more significant. They were precious. You'd never experience your first time here again, or what it was like to be 13 when the world was only beginning to open up wide. Even so, your thoughts were completely tinged in rose. A fuzzy blanket of nostalgia couldn't make you forget how it almost wasn't a nice time, how it only got to stay good because one person cared enough to make certain it did, how Derek Suarez cared more for others than himself. That remains starkly true about him more than a decade later. For the brief time you'd been in the area, he gladly let Nicholas direct the activity multiple times and did his best to not let George feel left out. Along with looking out for his own family, he never let that supersede your comfort or wants, and he accommodated your sister too, after he put in all the effort to help her come see everyone. You were sure he had fun being a part of the misadventures, but most times he's been a passenger in the exploits, despite having to be the person who drove everyone else. That answered Derek's question for you. My only contribution is that you choose. I feel like you should have a boardwalk makeup day where you get to do whatever you want after how many outings you let other people have their way. Derek's grin collapsed open. A crease formed in his brows. He was stunned and very touched. While the appreciation was unmistakable, he hesitated to accept such an offer.
Don't worry about that.
You don't have to do that. It's your vacation. If you missed out on stuff too. You weren't surprised by that response, but it didn't play like a rejection. He only needed some extra encouragement, like a kid who thought it was bad to open a present before his birthday, even if he got a permission from the giver. Maybe a little, but never because of you, Derek. You're not taking me for granted. You're my boyfriend. It's only fair that I get to be the one who puts you first sometimes. Eye contact temporarily failed him. Derek watched his own foot scuff at the spot where one slab of wood met another. A downturned face didn't hide the wide smile across it. Thanks, May. It's my pleasure. Gradually, his normal confidence returned. It wasn't a mistake. He wasn't doing something wrong. He could simply enjoy himself, and he would.
Come on.
Okay, then, if you're positive, sure. Want to get our faces painted? We've got to start the day right. Oh, God. Yeah, you laughed. Woo! Derek thrust his free hand ahead of you. It wasn't entirely in the right direction of the face painting you saw because you weren't facing that way, but you got the idea.
Nice.
I'm gonna get whatever I want. It could be anything. The sky's the limit. The cheer in his voice and the shimmer in his eyes was better than any thrill the boardwalk could have offered. You almost had to feel guilty yourself. He'd done you another favor by allowing you to be the one who did him a favor. That tended to be the way it went. You were complaining about that particular dynamic. Hey, you getting one? Of course. Cool. With no time to lose and a plan in mind, you and Derek went to the old face painting stand with the new artist. Welcome. I've got a free spot if you see something you like. The painter was far less glamorous than Xavier, but no less friendly or worse at their job, if the new example photos were to be believed. They had their own flair in the strokes and choice of color. You ushered Derek into the seat. It was his day, and for once he was going to go first. After you. He appreciatively obliged, strutted ahead, and hopped up onto the raised chair. Derek had no embarrassment over being an adult at a face painting stall. It was nice to see. Oh, excellent. What can I get you? Derek took a polite glance at the offered styles on display, though didn't need any time to decide. How about a shooting star? Good choice. The artist wasn't simply being polite. Well, they might have been, but shouldn't if they were. Derek beamed like a star himself. Nothing could have fit better. Taking it from point to point before attaching a long tail, soon Derek's cheek was emblazoned with a bright star streaking across his face. But they hadn't finished yet. The stall had upped its production value since you were last there. The artist added a finishing touch of glitter to the centerpiece and painted sparkles over the basic tail. Whoa. It was a pleasant surprise for Derek as well. He'd been sure of what he was getting and ended up with more. Hopefully that would be a pattern of things to come. Thank you. Derek shook the hand of the artisan vigorously before bounding out of the chair to show you. Check it out, not bad, huh?
Man.
Honestly, I always thought the shooting star was the coolest. It has the most going out of any of the options, but it's not exactly Nico's style. You're a great big brother. He let out a tiny laugh while only barely stopping himself from scratching his freshly painted cheek. And you're sweet, thanks. But he twisted on his heels and took 2 steps backward. The front of the stall was clear and Derek was in place to keep watch. Your turn. Cool. You walked under the large umbrella that covered the stall and settled into the paint-splattered seat. Hello, what can I get you? It was a difficult question, but after some serious soul-searching, you said, ooh, whiskers and a painted nose. Oh, God. I want a shooting star, too. Of course, you'll be a wonderful pair. For the second time, at least with you and Derek, it might have been their dozenth for the day, the painter put their talent into action. You'd forgotten how tickly bristles felt being drawn over your skin. You wondered how you managed to stay still for this in the past or how even younger kids did it. It might be because the process wasn't too long, you were in expert hands, while you'd been distracted by the unusual sensation they had finished. Your shooting star was topped off with a dash of glitter. The piece was complete. You smiled into the mirror the artist angled at you. Thank you. It's my pleasure. When you rejoined Derek outside of the stall, he admired the charming composition. It got a thumbs up from him.
Awesome.
A classic. You paid the artists for their work, just you, since you were covering Derek, and he certainly wasn't paying for you, and then it was back into the thick of the park. Derek was on his way, and you you were relieved to have him directing the course without a reminder to do so. Since we're here, we've got to ride the roller coaster. Then what are we waiting for? Alright. Mutual thrill propels you through the crowd, flying past the souvenir shops and food stands so fast you could imagine yourself already on the coaster. The line was wrapped around the whole base of the coaster, but neither of you intended to give up. You could be patient for your reward. Though patient didn't mean calm. Derek restlessly bounced from heel to toe and repeatedly clasped and unclasped his hands, sometimes shaking his finger out. His behavior was more appropriate for someone about to jump into a big game they've been training for all their life. But Derek had already gone through that kind of experience for real, so it was fitting for him. The thick row of people filed forward at a gradual pace. Derek shut out eager chatter when he got to move. He held on to his high spirits the whole while, and eventually he reached the boarding platform. Finally, the suspense of waiting to be on the ride was replaced with the anticipation of the drop. You got on a middle seat in the coaster, though with a bias towards the front. It was good with Derek, and that was good with you. Together, you piled in for the ride and closed the safety bar over your laps. A check of all cars was performed as usual, and when the clear was given, the wheels cranked ahead. It pulled higher and higher to the peak of the man-made wood mountain, until, without worrying, the coaster carried over the other side. Derek hollered loud enough to hear over the shouts of everyone else, plus the clattering chair and your teeth clattering in your head. You zoomed through twists and turns, being jostled around like you were tossed into a tumble dryer. And then it was over. You jerked forward with the car when the car's speed decreased significantly at the last leg. Once the car cranked to a crawl and rolled into the station, you headed across to the exit on the other side, making sure not to leave anything behind. All the fellow riders went down the path in a group. Derek was out of breath and buzzing with energy. You were in a similar state. After ruffling his already completely tousled hair, Derek sighed happily. That was great. Yeah. You began to drift over the boards again, heading nowhere but encouraged forward by the tide of park goers coming through. You couldn't remember when it happened, but your and Derek's hands found each other again. Your arms swung back and forth between you. He grinned over at you as sweetful as oh my god, he grinned over at you as sweet as a mouthful of cotton candy. What do you want to do next? Wait, no, what do I want to do next, right? You still get to pick. Derek and you joined in with the laughter, feeling the park. Force of habit. Don't worry, I can keep reminding you it's Derek's day. Derek's day, huh? I like the sound of that. He cast his focus up to the sky. With his free hand, Derek traced the edges of his jaw using his thumb and pointer finger. It reminded you of the way Mr. 𝐍𝐸𝐴𝐻 would stroke his beard thoughtfully and respectfully. Derek was missing the facial hair, but the effect was still the same. What does Derek 𝐍𝐸𝐴𝐻 want to do? We've hit the roller coaster and face painting stall. I'm not huge on the refreshments here, honestly. They've got bikes and the scooters, but you can do that almost anywhere. On top of that, time's running out before we have to leave, so up next is the Ferris wheel. We've got to do that before we go. Good idea. It'd be a big missed opportunity to leave it without riding it. Alright, let's go. Derek glanced around to get the lay of the land. You'd wandered far from the coaster and entirely lost touch with where you stood in the park. But your new target was the tallest structure for miles around. There was no trouble in determining a path towards it. Together, you made another crossing of the boardwalk. The line for the Ferris wheel wasn't as jam-packed as the first ride you'd stopped at. Far more guests could fit at a time, and it was simply less of a draw to the high-energy guests attending the park. You couldn't get on immediately, but the wait wouldn't take long. Derek's attitude standing there was in stark contrast to how he behaved on the creeping crawl to the coaster. His feet were firm on the ground. A ride attendee got the door for both of you. That didn't mean you couldn't add your own touch of cordialness. Please, you first.
Thanks.
How kind. He promptly climbed in. You carefully got up the 2 steps into the car after. Derek sat on the right bench, the same side he picked the last time you were there. You sat on the bench next to Derek. Oh, God. Derek squashed his shoulders up around the sides of his face in childlike excitement and welcomed you to the seat with a grin. He put out an okay sign for the attendant. Then the employee closed the tiny elevated room. You were fully encased inside. It muffled the raucousness so much you could believe the entire world had suddenly faded away. Glancing out the window showed that all was well. The car rocked forward and you watched as the ground grew further away. A warm hand enveloped yours. It was nice. You and Derek were completely unreachable there. For the duration of the ride, it was only you and him. That was freeing in a way. Derek seemed to think so too, because it got him to talk without reservation. I know we didn't get to do all that much here. We're finishing up and the sun hasn't even started to set. But even still, this has been the best trip to the boardwalk I've had in years. He poked at a small chunk of glitter on his cheek that clumped together and stuck out from the rest.
You're seriously great.
I hope you know that I really appreciate it. You're always looking out for me. I feel the same way about you. The Ferris wheel continued to go round on its set, unchanging path. Always forward, never back. Even in the brightness of a summer day, a shadow fell over Derek's face. Well, you succeeded in making me happy. Is it alright to ask if you had fun too? I'm having of course, anytime with Derek is a good time. That's good to know. Oh God. Why is this such... Oh wait, no. Why is the music so low? His gaze dropped and his voice was low, heavy with the weight of emotional strain. Thanks to you, I finally got to feel like I did when I was a kid for a little while. That means a lot. It's what I've been chasing since I got here. The big park, all dark and empty, Derek's pained confession, the scene all flashed through your mind. His words rung out, how he felt he'd lost so much and could never get it back. Maybe that wasn't entirely true after all. The soft smile on his face was exactly the same as the boy you once knew. Hey, remember that time you stayed over at my place and we camped out in the living room? We talked about the future and our dreams. The Father's Day thing might have been more of a bombshell, but I haven't forgotten the rest of that adventure. Yeah, same. We had such great plans a decade ago, huh? And now we're here, but I have no idea what I'm doing. Derek pressed himself into the heavy metal wall behind the seat and slept down it. I bet my 13-year-old self would have demanded a refund if he called a sidekick and they told him what direction his life was going to go in, and that it was still leading to getting together with you. That's obviously made up. Come on, Derek. Everyone knows you're too polite to ask for your money back. You're right, but I would have thought about it. I'd have made a great speech in my head about how it's only fair to not have to pay for a reading like that. Derek's voice faded out, replaced by the sound of his fingers tapping against the seat. One after another, they played a rapid beat like the fluttering of a heart. Sucks that there's no way to actually know what's going to happen in the future, huh? At least today was fun. A good break from having to be grown-ups. I wonder when we'll see each other again. You did appreciate that you had the chance to come for a short trip. It didn't stop you from already looking ahead to when you could be together during another time. Whenever you want, or can anyway. You mean it? Definitely. It's my apartment. I'm an adult, and I can say that May Taylor is allowed to visit all the time. He declared it proudly with a fox air of haughtiness? What the heck is that word? If his pitch had been a little higher, the statement would have been a fairly accurate imitation of Liz. It was all more than a little silly, but the smile growing on your face stopped short of becoming full. Derek's bold-faced confidence was only pretend. Regret remained hidden behind every smile. I'm not going to be too busy for you anymore. I figured out what my actual priorities are way later than I should have, but I did. Part of that is being someone you could actually count on again, so my door is always open. Oh, since you've been here, I've finally started to see a future I want to have. I thought about it more and more, and it keeps coming back to the same thing. I don't want to be this far away from you. Oh, he wants us in our future. Oh my god. Girl, we're gonna get married and have kids, and we'll never see it, but that's okay because I can just imagine it. That was it all along. The entire time you'd been staying with him, and even before you'd actually arrived, those were the words Derek had been holding back. He didn't restrain them any longer. I was hoping to be closer to you when I lived in the next city over. Being neighbors was my dream. I wasn't totally kidding about that. But I wasted all the years we had being at a manageable travel distance from each other. I pushed off facing you for real until I reached a perpetually moving goalpost. I regret that. I still do. I don't know if it'll ever stop pissing me off. Derek caught that his long-held anger began to carry him. He squeezed his eyes shut and forced a shaky, though steadying exhale out. That's not what matters, though. Oh, sorry, I'm gonna get my phone real quick. Okay. Oh, God. I can't redo the past. I've got to focus on what I can do. And what is that? I could move. I could live next to you now. What? Oh my God! The clawing darkness of the past faded under the shining hope of a better tomorrow. Why not, right? It's not as if I'd be canceling any amazing plans. I gave up everything before you got here. So this would be the best time for it. I don't have to renew... I don't have to renew my lease, and the career ideas I do have could come with me. I could start them somewhere else. Or hell, if you've been wanting to come back to this area for more than a vacation, I could keep the apartment and you could move in? I'd be up for either if you are. We could be there for each other day by day. For the first time, Derek had expressed the whole and honest truth of what he wanted for his life, for himself. It wasn't about his family or only for your sake. But even then, Derek couldn't help pre-compromising his preferences. He doubted the appeals of his hopes to anyone other than himself.
Worry about that.
I get if you think it'd be overkill, or if you're still worried about how it worked out. It wouldn't have to be forever. He winked, cheeky and familiar. I'm not asking you to marry me again. Maybe it lasts for only a year and then we'll have new plans. I'm gonna need time to figure out the long term either way. So that's it. Derek's new plan. What do you think? Ooh. Ooh. Oh, I forget where we live, honestly. I don't remember if we live abroad or like what. Or out of the country. I don't think we live in the same... Do we? I don't even know. Are you kidding? I'd kill to live in that apartment. It was obvious as soon as he had said it, you questioned why it took this long to realize you could simply be near each other if you wanted. And the next instant you remembered why. Neither of you pictured the other feeling the same way. You imagined Derek was pursuing his sports dreams and never would have interrupted that. He saw himself as unworthy of others' acceptance until an abstract level of success was obtained. But those days were behind both of you. The answer you gave and the dazzling smile it gave Derek was proof of it. Really? You nodded with complete resolve. There wasn't any need for doubt. Really. Woo! His arm shot up as he whooped a victorious cheer. Unfortunately, the Ferris wheel car wasn't built for that kind of celebration. His fist cracked directly against the metal ceiling of the cabin. Ack. But he laughed heartedly, shaking off his smarting knuckles. Nothing was gonna bring him down. He started to ramble off moving logistics and preparations that needed to be made. Informing the landlord that there would be another occupant was paramount, but he was positive she wouldn't mind, and you'd be able to keep that key he'd given you from the start, of course. It was dry, grown-up responsibility stuff, yet it sparked more excitement in you than any amusement park could have. Derek was able to rein in on the frenzied babbling long enough to extend a hand towards you intently. You understood what he meant by that. The place, the time of day, the turns, so much of the situation was entirely different from from the first time Derek had made you an offer, but the feelings behind it remained the same. An earnest desire to not be separated. Oh my God. You took hold of one another securely and shook.
Deal.
Yeah, deal. Wow. He slowly let you go before staring down at his hand in wide-eyed disbelief, as if it wasn't his. But it was. Derek had taken his own life into that hand of his. You believed he wouldn't lose hold of it ever again. I actually did it. His scuffed fingers curled into a fist, and he lifted his intense green eyes to your face. Derek had grown and he'd held himself back. He changed and he'd remained himself. He developed into an adult he should be proud of, and he was still the boy you met 10 years ago. It was all true at once, and it made you happier than you could say. I'm feeling better about the future already, thanks, May. Derek had gained genuine confidence. He trusted his own decisions now that they were made to seek the best instead of to hide from the worst. Nothing in the world was more heartening than that. I am too, Derek. Derek satisfyingly stretched out his arms in front of him. He learned his lesson about moving them higher. Well, I might not really know what I'm doing with my own life, but I've at least got a nice apartment in a great location with a balcony and my favorite people all around. I'll take that as a win. You shook with the swing of your personal cabin and of laughter, too. Derek sniggered himself but clung to a piece of the prior seriousness. It is a relief, though. Feeling good about sticking around here more is more progress than I had a few days ago. And 23 is not that old. There's plenty of time left to work it out. I absolutely agree. Then I know I've got it right if you think that it's smart. For the first time in his waking hours, Derek was completely at peace with himself. Well, why do I have to do it? You kiss his lips. You pressed a sweet feather-like kiss on the corner of his soft mouth. Oh my god. Derek's breast flicked your face when he snorted. The kiss had tickled himself literally and metaphorically. Still, he kept you close to him, wrapping a heavy arm around your shoulders. Derek was there with you and you with him. For that, you were grateful. Hey, May? His voice was a gentle whisper. It was as if you were still lying on the couch, half asleep and lost in nothing more than a dream. Yeah? Does this count as our second date? You pick. It is Derek's day. He smooched your cheeks, snickers slipping through his lips. I'd say we're doing pretty good at this relationship thing. Me too, Derek. Another great idea to add to the list. Your spirits had flown straight to moon like a pair of shooting stars, though physically you were still in the gently drifting cabin and its position was on the decline. The ride came to its end and you were ready for that, and whatever else you'd inevitably face. You had a teammate at your side to tackle life's challenges with. When your cabin arrived at the bottom, you took your turn to dismount. The same attendant gestured toward the tall-framed exit gate and thanked you for coming. Doing as instructed, you left the Ferris wheel behind you. Derek took wide, peppy steps to clear the way for the next passengers to get through. Whoa. Then he abruptly came to a complete halt. What time is it again? I completely forgot that was probably going to have to be our last stop. He was glancing all around as if he'd be able to spot a clock floating in the air with enough persistence. Eventually he recalled he owned a cell phone. You discreetly chuckled while he dug it out of his sweatpants pocket. Yep, damn, we gotta go. We might be pushing it a little already. You've got people to see. Derek shoved his phone back in his place with a terse sigh. The second I have fun, being responsible goes out the window. I'm sorry. Don't worry, it's not too late and I wouldn't have missed this. Plus, me leaving is only temporary now thanks to you. Exactly, you'll get to see the bros, mom and dad, and your parents whenever you want soon. Let's head out. Together, you bounded across the boardwalk one last time. The energy still filling the area was thrilling, and the rush made it easier to leave it behind. Soon you were packed into Derek's car and on the long trip home. To truly your home, after having made the most of the afternoon you got. On the long drive back, from the park, there were moments of conversation and of quiet, of reminiscing about the past and imaginations of the future. Of course, the now upcoming move was a major source of discussion. You decided to announce it to everyone while they were all together. The decision had been made, so there was no reason to hide it. Sitting in the passenger seat over those hours, you sometimes felt as if you hadn't left that Ferris wheel cabin in the sky. The atmosphere of Derek's car had a similar way about it that made you feel disconnected from the rest of the world. No one else could reach you or him, and you could say anything there. But there was a major difference. The peace and comfortable status was only an illusion. You were on the slow and changing path of that park ride. Derek was speeding down a California highway in a race against time. There was a party at the end of the road, and Derek was never one to be late. When he finally pulled into the apartment's complex parking lot, the car went silent, its leg of the relay over, and the frantic whirl and rush had to be carried out on... Wait, oh my god. When he finally pulled in the apartment complex's parking lot, the car went silent, its leg of the relay was over, and the frantic whirl and rush had to be carried on with your own flesh and bones. There we go, I cannot talk today. Not a moment was wasted, snatching up the few belongings you'd brought along and booking it towards the building. You passed no one in the halls. Derek had his key in hand, already prepared to unlock the door, and when that was swung open, you saw the living room you'd grown so accustomed to empty. The space was untouched since you left early that morning, at least as far as you could remember, but Derek didn't celebrate an early victory. He put a finger to his lips and made a show of checking behind the couch and around the kitchen counter just to make certain his family hadn't used their spare keys to prepare another surprise. You trailed behind Derek step for step as he dramatically skulked about his own house. He checked around a corner and you tried to get a look over his broad shoulders to see too. Nicholas and Liz could absolutely not be trusted. If they came by the apartment and found you and Derek gone, they would almost certainly play the same joke twice. However, they hadn't gotten that chance. Derek stood tall and concluded his inspection with that revelation. We've done it! No one is here! We spent the whole day out and still beat them. With a cheer, he finally relished the victory now that it was truly assured. A boardwalk date with May, being on time and getting to see the family before the day is over. Things are really all going my way, huh? It's perfect. Derek was saying the day was Derek saying the day was perfect made it so for you too. After a lifetime of compromises and sacrifices, you were proud to see him get exactly what he wanted. And everyone, I think that is where I'm going to end today's episode. Number one, my voice is killing me. Number two, girl, we're going to be moving in with Derek. Oh my god, wow. So like in the future or whatever, when they're not... Why isn't he... Girl? Okay, never mind. God. Sorry, I'm being distracted by people, my friends and stuff. But yeah, we're gonna be moving in with him in the future. I don't think it'll be shown in this epilogue, but yeah. So next episode, we're gonna be maybe finishing it. I have no clue, but what I plan for next time is just to have it be all about like the family and everything. So it might be a shorter episode. I'm not sure, because we have to meet the family and then we're leaving. So who knows how long that's all gonna take. I don't know, y'all. But yeah, we're most likely gonna try and finish Derek's DLC next episode, and then we'll move on to Baxter's. Still haven't gotten around to that, and I'm so sorry about that. But yeah, everyone, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. But lastly, here's Gemma, and thank you for watching. A wonderful day, everyone. Bye!